This week from the Rochester Press Box at Salvatore's Pizzeria from the historic Garage Door Restaurant.
Hi, I'm Gene Glynn, manager of the Rochester Red Wings. I'm going to come back and tell you a little bit about how good it feels to tell someone he's going to the big leagues.
And I'm John DiTullio, a coaching legend calls it a career.
And I'm Mike Catalana. Johnny Football, stop being Johnny Vegas.
I'm Bill Pucko, a fan of salary cap chaos. Join us this week in the Rochester Press Box. The Rochester Press Box is brought to you by Salvatore's at the Garage Door, Rochester's choice winner for Best Pizzeria, featuring Wacky Wing Wednesday and the Super Slice. It's as big as your head. The games are always on at the Garage Door, home to the Rochester Press Box. Hello everyone, and welcome to Salvatore's Pizzeria at the historic Garage Door Restaurant for the Rochester Press Box. I'm Bill Pucko, joined as always by John DiTullio, WHTK.
Billy, it's great to be back.
Mike Catalana, 13 WHAM News.
Good to be here.
And it is our pleasure to welcome our special guest, Gene Glynn, manager of the Rochester Red Wings, who are just having a tremendous season. Gene, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bill.
Well, talk a little bit about the team. This has been very successful so far this year, built on what happened last year with a playoff team. What's going on out there?
Well, just a lot of guys wanting to win one game at a time, I guess, and that's kind of an old cliche, but they kind of push each other. And the team competition has grown, I think, to be a good, solid, strong, positive feel. And they get on each other. They ride each other pretty well, but yet there's a really good team focus of just get the job done, set the next guy up maybe to succeed, score a run for the guy, get him an RBI, if you can, go on a ball in the dirt. But really grind out an at-bat because like last night, even a sac fly is going to win you a game sometimes. And a true double, sets it up. And I think you could go back throughout the season and our pitching has been real strong. Our starting
They're
pitching
great fun to
especially.
watch. I mean, you play an exciting brand of ball. Well, we had a baseball story to talk about this week. John Lackey popped off. John Lackey has got it out for Nelson Cruz. He's lecturing the baseball writers that are covering his game against the Orioles, saying, you guys forget about what happened before. It's the whole biogenesis thing, performance-enhancing drugs. Is there an underlying current among the players that you know and the people within baseball who still kind of have it out for these guys?
Only when I hear it or read it. Other than that, it's not in the general conversation of every day or in the atmosphere of baseball when you talk to a front office, or the farm director or the coordinators that are traveling around the country. I never hear it until someone like that actually is either quoted or writes about it or has been written about. So no, I don't think there is an underlying around the game of baseball. It could be a personal.
Do you look at him differently?
No. No matter who was ever somewhat connected, if it was true, nothing. I was always about the game.
It's interesting the way Buck Showalter reacted. Now he's going to stick up for his guy, but then basically says, make sure your house is clean before you start talking about anybody else.
Yeah, it's the next domino, and then David Ortiz has to pop off.
And instead of yelling at the media, why doesn't he yell at the players' union, who allows players who are abusers to come back and play? Right? The union and the league sat down, and this is the penalties they came up with. Don't yell at the media. Yell at your own union for allowing these so-called abusers to have an avenue back into the game. He did his time. He paid his penance. In this world that we live in, if you do your time, you do the crime, you're allowed back into society. In this case, Nelson Cruz is allowed back into the game by the rules of baseball. Now, if he went 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts, what would you say about him then? The fact that he tagged him a couple times and he has 28 home runs, and the guy looks like Frank Robinson right now for the Orioles, the way he's playing.
The guys get out of prison and they're still they're on probation essentially. For me, I mean, it wouldn't be beyond reason to say for 3 years you can't represent the game in the All-Star game.
I never comment on a personal problem of a player or what they've gone through, and I hope it's all, there is a gray area out there that we all have to deal with.
How about one that they're going through? If you had a guy in your clubhouse who was using or had some kind of problem like that, would you take it upon yourself to bring the issue up?
Well, I don't think that, the Twins are squeaky clean either, or us as anybody. There's been a little bit of controversy in every organization, but the guy himself brings it on himself. The organization has to just deal with that time that he has to serve no matter what it might be nowadays and what you get caught with. You know, we deal with it because we walk on with the other players that are still standing, and we have to have a game to play that day. We don't get caught up in really what happened yesterday or a week ago. It's there, we have to deal with it, but we try not to have that be the focal point. We got to move on if that guy's in trouble.
You guys think it's time for me to let it go?
I just think no matter how this all plays out, Cruz, Ortiz, wherever it is, at the end, the bottom line is still nobody's going to like A-Rod. When he comes back, no matter what, when he comes back, A-Rod will still be that guy that
Can't
nobody...
wait to watch the All-Star game next Tuesday. I'll be honest with you. I'm fired up.
Alrighty. When we return, surprising outcomes. Hello, Brazil.
President Obama was at the Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in Cooperstown this week.
These are drunken, young knuckleheads.
They just have too much going against them. Kelly Johnson's not the answer at first base.
I like him. This past week, I hated him. Is he the best player in the National League right now? Absolutely, 100%.
And this is such a great story, the story that keeps on giving.
There are those who look at things the way they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not.
Welcome back to Salvatore's Pizzeria here at the historic Garage Door Restaurant. Bill Pucko, John, Mike, and our special guest, Gene Glynn of the Rochester Red Wings.
And Mr. Basketball, State of Minnesota, 1975.
How did you guys find that out? I have no idea how you found that out.
Well, this past week we saw Brazil get smoked in the World Cup, 7-1 by Germany. And it made me think about, outcomes of games that you're so braced for a great contest and you don't get it. You got one?
Well, I've got baseball, Yankees, Red Sox, Game 704. Yeah. Every game of that series was basically decided by a run or two. Johnny Damon hits a grand slam, I think, in the second inning, and I think it's 8-0 at that point.
Kevin Brown settled in.
Game, set, match. I think in Notre Dame, even Notre Dame, Alabama a few years ago, I thought that was going to be a close game, and Alabama ran. And then personally for me, Penn State, Michigan, 97. We're 3 in the country, they're 4, and we're down 24-0 at the half. It probably should have been 50-0 at half. Ended up being 34-8. It was never a game whatsoever. But I think most fresh is the Yankees Red Sox Game 7 of 04. Was never a contest.
You got one, Mike?
Yeah, well, Bills Raiders in the playoffs. It's the Bills trying to get in their first Super Bowl. Everybody expects their battle with the Raiders, and it was as one-sided of a game as I think I've ever seen. In fact, I remember after the game talking to Andre Reed, and I said, what were they saying to you? Because they were running that no huddle and just killing them. And he started laughing, and he said, they were just saying, slow down, you're killing us. The Raiders knew at halftime that game was over, and the Bills ended up.
Well, it was also 41-3 at the half. I had to look that up.
Oh, it was everything went right for the Bills in that game. And that was the day the first Gulf War broke out, by the way. And during that game, they had all the different TV coverage from going on in Iraq. It was all going on that same day.
Yeah, and of course the big Super Bowl that wound up following. Gene, the games get out of hand, don't they? I mean,
Some do.
You think you've got control of things and it's gone, right?
Well, some of the fans remember last year we had I think about a 3-game lead, and we had a 5-run lead in the game late in the season last year against Indianapolis. It was 5 runs in the 9th. We ended up losing that game and go on to lose 6 in a row. And we really had great momentum on the season going into the last 10 days of the year. And something like that can affect you. And unlike football, you got a week to think about it and kind of can either bring you down or get you more motivated. We had to deal with it the next day, and it kind of wore on us for that week.
You put in all that preparation and just gets away.
Wait a minute, but I'm thinking something here. Gene had a 5-run lead, 9th inning. If they'd have stolen a base in that inning, wouldn't that have broken an unwritten rule? Because we've talked about that a little bit, right? Because you got this big lead, and whether you try to add to it, and you end up losing the game.
Well, I don't think we really threatened late. I think the lead was actually growing, and then once we got to that point, and we had just had a good series with Louisville. We come in, I think we beat Indy the first night, and they had kind of been the cream of the league in the sense of from beginning to end last season. So we knew they had a real good team, but you just never know. The same guys that answered the call many times throughout the year to give us that lead is the same guys that were in that game.
Mike, we talk about unwritten rules a lot. You talk stolen bases. Mm-hmm. What is it with you? How big a lead do you have to have before you, a running manager, will stop your guys?
Well, it depends upon the inning, too. If it's still the first or second inning, you're up by 5, no one expects you to stop trying because there's a long way to go in that game. Now, if you get to the 7th, 8th, and 9th, then you have a pretty big lead. Part of it, too, is not to change the momentum to their side and get them all mad or upset or whatever. So you
have to think about that.
Well, you do. You think there's a time and a place, and just like another manager will steal up 5 sometimes, it might be the 3rd or 4th inning, and the guy that is actually on the base is a base stealer. So, you're not just going to shut him down and tell him no.
You ever been on the receiving end and say, that wasn't right?
Well, at times, but if you know the situation and the people and what they're playing for too, and how much it really means, what time of the year it is, there's a lot of factors. But it used to always be a 5-run lead. You kind of shut it down, but that's kind of gone away until it's like the 7th, 8th, or 9th. Early in the game now, go ahead and be who you are, play your game, do what you're prepared to do.
Don't like it, stop them. Right?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
That's about it.
Professionals.
Yeah.
All righty. Like it or not, when we return. Welcome back. This is the Rochester Press Box from Salvatore's Pizzeria at the historic Garage Door Restaurant. Check out the Rochester Lancers website. They have summer camps, soccer camps all summer long. You'd love to get involved with those. They do a first-rate job. Like it or not, Michael, collaborative basketball in the NBA, putting these teams together.
I really don't like it. Wouldn't it be great if we had a team play like a team and just develop their guys, maybe from Europe, or bring them? Oh, yeah, we did have that, right? The team that just won the championship. Who, believe me, they have very good players, great players.
Yeah.
But they're not trying to accumulate 3 superstars. They kind of make their own superstars. Look, LeBron is great. Everybody will want to play with him. But I am getting a little tired of the mixing and matching and thinking the 2 or 3 guys are going to make it work. It did work for a period of time in Miami because LeBron is the best player in the world. And I think you could put him on almost any team. We saw it in Cleveland with not a lot around him, and he could still get a team to the finals like he did in Miami. Don't particularly like it. I'd rather see a guy say, I'm going there, build around me, than to try to work it all together.
Uncomfortable with it?
No, I love it. I love the NBA, and this is really about LeBron. I mean, Carmelo, I understand, trying to go to Chicago, LA. Back in the day, the Lakers didn't really do this. The Knicks, back in the day, we grew up in a time where this didn't happen. It's a different time now. It's more about stars, and really one superstar, LeBron James. We've never seen one guy take over a sport like he has, and I'm all for it. I think the way this story ends, the way it could end as a movie, if he goes back to Cleveland. I think that's the only way it ends good for LeBron. If he ends up back in Miami, seen that, to me, I think he's set up, as Mike just said, I think a better roster is sitting in Cleveland. Yeah. And he won't have to go through this next year if he goes back to Cleveland. They're set up for the next 5 to 6 years to win.
Yeah, or you can re-sign for a year in Miami and do this again next year.
You know what? Break up with Miami, especially Pat Riley. Yeah. Dump Pat Riley.
Gene, like it or not, the home run derby.
I like it. Yeah, it's great for the fans. It adds one more venue, or one more event on the venue for the All-Star game, and the whole region there that attends, and people around the country. But I was part of it in '98. In the earlier stages, I threw some BP to some of the players, and then it came right down where Griffey won it. But that was '98 in Colorado when I was part of that staff with Don Baylor. The Florida group had come in, more so Leland and them, who had won it in '97, so they were the National League representative staff. But it's a great thing. It's fun to watch.
Some of these guys think it throws their swing off or affects them adversely. Are you in that school of thought?
Well, not unless they really are changing their swing to hit home runs all the time. But usually you get a couple of days to get back in. I'm not sure. I guess we'd have to ask them, but I don't see why, because you see a lot of guys swing like that in BP every day.
It's a shame because the home run contest has become almost like the dunk contest. Right. Years ago, you had all those guys who loved the dunk contest, with Jordan, and before that, Dr. J and all those guys. Yeah. And we had all the home run hitters like when Gene's talking about. And now, you won't see all the best guys. And I think it's a shame. When it was at its prime, and that probably was pretty close to it, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Puig is must-see next Monday. I think with Puig in it makes me watch Monday night.
That guy will be there, Johnny, like it or not. Tanaka, and what's been happening to him lately?
He's probably, he's the MVP of the Yankees for the first half. He's been their best pitcher, even though I think Brett Gardner's had a great year. Listen, 8 home runs in his last 5 starts? He's given up 15 homers now in the season. Teams figuring him out. Is he getting tired? I don't know, but that's not the same picture we saw a month ago. Maybe Gene can talk about what they've done with his, how many days off he's getting in between starts, but that's not the same picture that we saw in April, May, and for most of June. The guy, I don't know, teams have figured him out, but 8 home runs in your last 5 starts, he's given up 15 gophers. If he's not effective in the second half, the Yankees got no shot at a wild card. Not even be in contention in the second half.
He's really represented well. Unfinished business when we return. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rochester Press Box here from Salvatore's Pizzeria at the Garage Door Restaurant. It's time for Unfinished Business. John.
2 local college coaches I've always enjoyed spending time with. Number 1 is Wayne Wilson at RIT, the men's hockey coach. Not a better guy in the biz. The other guy is Mike Neer, who finally stepped down after 37 years. 34 of those spent at the U of R, where he basically built that program all by himself. How things could be different if Jim Boeheim had gotten the U of R job. But if there was one guy who was destined to coach at the U of R, isn't it Mike Neer, who had a naval background? And he built that program by playing his own style. Him and I called a local college basketball game one time, and in the pregame meeting, I shouldn't say pregame, pre-week meeting, he basically had to throw me out of his office because I was having so much fun talking basketball with Mike. And he had to go coach, at that point, the U of R. But Mike was just such a great guy, knew the game, and I was just a student, just trying to be a sponge and squeeze as much information, so much knowledge out of a coaching legend. He was about 6'8", had that deep voice. He can be very, very imposing, an intellect, but I just found Mike to be as generous and a great guy, and more importantly, a great coach who is going to be missed. 37 years. He built that U of R program. He is one of the best local college coaches of all time.
He was like an intellectual bully.
Yes, yes. I compared him at the time. He was Joe Paterno at that point. I always thought Paterno was an intellectual bully. Mike, don't take offense, he was that. Mike talked down to you. Literally, he was 6'8".
Without trying.
Boy, but he talked down to me quite a bit. He always seemed to, the words that he used, I'd always have to look up after our conversation. He was that smart.
We pass it over to our Mr. Basketball, 1975 Minnesota.
Oh, yes.
Take your shot.
Well, the one thing that you all might like to listen to or hear is when a manager at AAA gets to tell a guy he's going to the big leagues. And I do remember my first one was Scott Diamond in 2012. I took him out of the game, and he came off, and he goes, "How come you're taking me out?" And I said, "No, you had enough." And he looked at me, kind of cocked his head. I said, "You're going to the big leagues." And he just kind of melted and gave me a big hug. So after the game, I went in, and we announced it in front of the group because some of the teammates were still on the field, and it milled through the dugout. So then I got to say, "Hey, Scotty, we're all really happy for you. It's good news you're going to the big leagues. The bad news is Brian Dozier's going with you." Happened the same time. And now we know Brian Dozier might take part in the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game in Minnesota. We know Scott's with us now, trying to get back to the big leagues, but great things happen in AAA. It's not all what you hear about, but it's good baseball, and guys come and go, but there's nothing more exciting than telling a guy.
Is that the best part of it?
Yeah.
Gene, is getting to tell a guy?
Well, winning a game is the best part.
Oh, really?
Oh, winning a game, after the game, all the guys happy and the music going, and that's the best part. But telling a guy he's going to the big leagues is really special.
Different subject here. You guys know, and I've talked about, I like Johnny Manziel. I like the way he plays. I like a lot of what he does. But I'm going to say, Johnny, take it easy. I don't need to see another picture of you in Las Vegas. And I've heard the excuse, yeah, he's young, he's single, he can do all this. That's fine. But at some point, slow it down, or put the camera away, or stop posing for pictures. You are the quarterback. They want you to be the quarterback. They want you to be the leader. You are this close away from doing something really stupid. So far, it's been kind of on the edge, depending on what you think. You're this close. Make it this far away. Be smart, go play football, and then we'll all decide whether you can play or not.
Alrighty, I'm a big fan of salary caps. I like the idea that San Antonio and Oklahoma City can compete with New York and Los Angeles in the NBA, and theoretically, at least, that Buffalo can challenge Dallas someday in the NFL. The thing is, we all have budgets, though. Salary caps, we have one here for the Rochester Press Box. When Mike Catalana asked for his max contract, I have to find the money, and I'm taking it from Gene and John, and they're not very happy, and they go over to Time Warner Sports Net. I've got Mike, but I'm a little bitter over what's happened to my show. This is the kind of thing that happens all the time. LeBron James is a free agent. He can guarantee himself a championship tomorrow. He just goes into Pat Riley and says, look, I want to sign with Miami. I'll take minimum wage. Because if you take a max contract, you're selfish. If you take the lesser contract, you're somehow magnanimous. The NBA free agency has created chaos, but I'm amazed that it works as well as it does. We record the Rochester Press Box here every Wednesday afternoon at 12:30. We invite you to come down, see the guys, have lunch with us. John, great as always.
Billy,
Appreciate it.
great show today.
Mike?
Good to be here.
We're trying 2 years to get you on, Gene. I'm glad it finally worked out. Thanks
I didn't
for
know you were
coming.
going to drop that Mr. Basketball on me, though.
Oh, we thank Toby Matika for that.
Yeah, we're doing a story on 13 on that.
Alrighty, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.